We need to have a serious conversation. I want you to forget everything you've been told, everything you've been made to feel about a certain private part of your life. For years, perhaps for your entire life, you've been carrying a lie. A lie that told you that after a certain age, 60, 65, 70, your masculinity was meant to gracefully fade away. That your desires were something to be managed, suppressed, or even ashamed of. That the fire that once defined you was supposed to dwindle into quiet, respectable embers. But let me look you in the eye and tell you the truth. That is the single most dangerous deception a man can believe. That feeling you have, the creeping fatigue that isn't solved by sleep, the silence in your body where there used to be a hum of energy, the growing sense of disconnection when you look in the mirror, that is not just old age. That is not inevitable. That is the sound of a system being starved. The enemy here isn't the year you were born. The enemy is a silent, invisible process called physiological surrender. It's what happens when your body, believing it's no longer needed, begins the slow, systematic process of shutting itself down. It's a retreat that happens cell by cell, vessel by vessel, nerve by nerve. And it's driven by one thing: the misinformation you've been fed for decades. But here is the promise I have seen fulfilled in my clinic for over 25 years. Your body has not forgotten how to be vital. It is waiting. It is listening for a signal, a command from you, its leader, to re-engage. The power to reverse this process is not in a high-tech lab or an expensive pill. It has been with you all along. Today, we are going to open my private files. I am going to share with you the 7 undeniable truths of male vitality after 60. This is the information you should have received when you were 40. This is your manual for reawakening your own biology. Pay close attention, because what you're about to hear is the foundation for rebuilding the man you thought was gone. Let's begin with the most common habit that is actively sabotaging your function right now. Truth number 1. Your habit is your cage. How mindless masturbation destroys sensation. I remember a patient, a gentleman named Frank, 67 years old, a retired contractor. He was a man who had built things with his hands his entire life. He sat in my office, his own powerful hands resting on his knees, and said something heartbreaking. "Doc, it's like there's a glove between me and the world. I just can't feel things the way I used to. Especially down there." Frank was suffering from something I see every week: the end result of decades of goal-oriented, mechanical self-pleasure. For 40 years, he had done it the same way. Quickly, with a tense grip, his mind racing to get to the finish line. He didn't realize he wasn't just achieving an orgasm. He was carving a deep, neurological groove in his brain. Think of it like walking the same path in a forest every single day. Over time, that path becomes a deep, hard-packed rut. Eventually, it's the only path you can walk. This is what happens to your nerves. This neurological grooving trains your body to respond only to that one specific high-intensity stimulation. The result? Your sensitivity plummets. The delicate nerve endings that are designed to respond to subtle, warm, gentle touch become deaf. They are waiting for a shout, and all they get is a whisper. This is the root of so many problems men bring to me. They can't stay hard with their partner because her touch is too gentle. They find it takes longer and longer to climax, a condition called delayed ejaculation. In the worst cases, they can't climax at all. The real cost, the price you pay for this mindless habit, isn't just diminished pleasure. It's the erosion of intimacy. You begin to avoid connection because you're afraid your body won't respond. You become a spectator in your own life, disconnected from your partner and, most tragically, from yourself. You start to believe you are broken. You are not broken. You have just been walking in the wrong rut for too long. But you can create a new path. However, as damaging as this habit is, there's another behavior that men are often praised for, a behavior that is far more corrosive to your physical health. Truth number 2. The dignity of abstinence is a lie. It's clogging your engine. I had another patient, a 72-year-old retired professor named Arthur. Proud, intellectual man. He came to me because he was getting up 4, 5, even 6 times a night to use the bathroom. He felt a constant pressure, a fullness deep in his gut. He was tired, irritable, and worried. He'd read online and was convinced he had the beginnings of prostate cancer. After running some initial tests, I asked him a simple question. Arthur, when was the last time you cleared the pipes? When did you last ejaculate? He looked at me as if I'd asked him to recite a poem. My dear doctor, he said a bit stiffly, my wife passed 7 years ago. I am well beyond that sort of thing now. That statement, I am beyond that sort of thing, is one of the most biologically damaging beliefs a man can hold. Here's why. Your prostate gland is a factory that never closes. It continuously produces fluid. It is designed for this fluid to be expelled regularly. When you stop ejaculating, that fluid has nowhere to go. It backs up. The prostate becomes swollen, boggy, and inflamed. Think of it like a kitchen sponge that is never wrung out. It becomes a breeding ground for problems. This state is called prostate congestion, and it is a primary driver of the symptoms Arthur was experiencing. Urinary urgency, weak stream, and that constant pressure. The science on this is unequivocal. A massive, multi-decade study out of Harvard University found that men who ejaculated 21 or more times per month had up to a 33% lower risk of developing prostate cancer compared to men who ejaculated only 4 to 7 times per month. This is not my opinion. This is data. The real cost. By viewing abstinence as a mark of dignified aging, you are inadvertently creating an inflammatory environment inside your own body. The cost is not just sleepless nights running to the bathroom. It's the chronic discomfort, the potential need for medications with side effects, and living with the low-grade anxiety of a major health scare. Regular ejaculation is not a vulgar act. It is essential biological maintenance, as critical as cleaning your arteries or strengthening your heart. Truth number 3. Emotional shame is a physical poison. Let's talk about the ghost in the room for so many men. Shame. That feeling you got as a boy when you were told what you were doing was dirty. The religious guilt. The cultural taboo. That voice of an old coach or parent that still whispers in your ear. I want you to understand this from a purely scientific standpoint. That shame is a biological poison. It is a form of chronic, low-grade stress. When you feel that twinge of guilt or embarrassment about your own body and its natural functions, you are triggering a physiological cascade. Your adrenal glands release cortisol. Your muscles subtly tense. Your heart rate increases. You are, in essence, putting your body into a mild state of fight or flight. Now, imagine doing that for 50 years. A healthy, guilt-free orgasm does the exact opposite. It floods your brain with beneficial neurochemicals. It releases dopamine, which fuels motivation and focus. It releases prolactin, which promotes deep, restorative sleep. Most importantly, it releases oxytocin, often called the trust hormone, which lowers cortisol, reduces blood pressure, and creates a profound sense of calm and well-being. The real cost. When you allow shame to block this natural process, you are denying your body one of its most powerful, built-in healing mechanisms. You are choosing cortisol over oxytocin. You are choosing stress over peace. You are choosing tension over release. The cost is immeasurable. It's years of fragmented sleep. It's a perpetually tense nervous system. It is a quiet hardening, not just of the arteries, but of the spirit. Releasing that old, inherited shame is not a psychological exercise. It is a medical necessity. Truth number 4. Testosterone is not lost, it is abdicated. Testosterone. It's the hormone of kings. It fuels your muscle mass, your bone density, your competitive drive, your mood, and yes, your libido. The common narrative is that it simply vanishes with age, like hair on your head. This is only a fraction of the truth. Testosterone levels respond to demand. Your body is an incredibly efficient, if brutally literal, machine. If you don't use a system, the body concludes it's not needed and stops investing resources in it. Think about a supercar. If you leave it sitting in the garage for a year, it doesn't just get dusty. The battery dies, the tires flat spot, the fluids settle. It begins to decay. Your hormonal system is the same. When you cease all sexual activity, including solo activity, you are sending a clear, loud message to your brain and testes. The factory can slow down. We are no longer in business. In response, the production line for testosterone is throttled back. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You feel less drive, so you do less. You do less, so you have even less drive. This is the downward spiral I see in so many men, like the firefighter Frank I mentioned earlier. He stopped feeling like a man, so he stopped acting like one, which in turn caused his body to stop producing the very chemistry of manhood. The real cost: low testosterone is not just about sex. It is a direct line to depression, cognitive fog, loss of motivation, increased body fat, and a higher risk of cardiovascular disease. The price of sexual inactivity is the abdication of your own vitality. You are handing over the keys to the kingdom without a fight. Re-engaging, even with yourself, is like turning the key in that supercar's ignition. It tells the engine, "We're going for a drive," and the entire system begins to roar back to life. Now, we've talked about the internal environment, but I need to warn you about the final three truths, which are even more critical. And before we get to the final secret, the most important one of all, let me say this. What I'm about to share next is the key to preserving the physical machinery itself. Truth number 5. Your erection is a barometer of life and death. Use it or lose it. This is the most direct and mechanically crucial truth I can give you. The phrase, "use it or lose it," is not a locker room joke. It is a stark medical reality. An erection is not just a pleasant event. It is a life-sustaining process for the tissue itself. The penis is not solid muscle like a bicep. It's composed of sponge-like tissues called the corpora cavernosa. For these tissues to remain healthy, flexible, and responsive, they require regular, high-pressure infusions of oxygenated blood. An erection is precisely that, a therapeutic flushing of the system. When you go for long periods without any erections, that tissue is starved of oxygen. Two terrible things begin to happen. First, the smooth muscle cells start to atrophy and die. Second, your body begins to replace that supple, elastic tissue with rigid, non-expansive collagen fibers. This process is called penile fibrosis. Think of it like a fresh, elastic rubber band versus one that's been left out in the sun for a year. It becomes brittle, stiff, and it loses its ability to stretch. This is what happens to the tissues inside you. They literally lose their capacity to engorge with blood. The real cost: this is not temporary. This is a physical, structural change to your body. It can lead to a noticeable loss of length and girth. It can lead to a permanent state of erectile dysfunction where, even if your mind is willing, the physical machinery is simply too rusted and ceased to respond. You are allowing a core part of your physical identity to wither away, not from age but from simple neglect. Regular erections, however you achieve them, are not about pleasure. They are about preservation. Truth number 6. Modern porn is a neurological drug that steals your joy. We must address this with honesty. The pornography of today bears no resemblance to anything that existed for most of your life. It is an endless, high-speed novelty engine designed to hijack your brain's reward system. It is, in effect, a neurological drug. When you watch it, it floods your brain with a level of dopamine that is so intense, so supernormal, that it makes reality seem pale and dull in comparison. Your brain, being an adaptation machine, begins to down-regulate its own dopamine receptors to protect itself from the onslaught. This means you need more and more extreme content to feel anything at all. But the terrifying side effect is that your brain loses its sensitivity to natural sources of pleasure. The gentle touch of a partner, the intimacy of eye contact, the beauty of your own imagination, they can no longer compete. They don't produce enough dopamine to get a response. The real cost: the price is not just erectile dysfunction in the presence of a real partner. The cost is the theft of your ability to feel joy in the real world. You become a prisoner of a digital fantasy, chasing a high that only leaves you emptier. You lose the capacity for authentic connection. The cure is a dopamine fast. A 30, 60, or 90-day break from all visual pornography allows your brain's chemistry to reset. It's difficult at first, but on the other side is the return of real-world sensitivity and the rediscovery of genuine, embodied pleasure. Truth number 7. The ultimate sin is not lust. It is self-abandonment. We have arrived at the final and most profound truth. More damaging than any bad habit, any chemical imbalance, any single physical symptom, is the act of self-abandonment. It's what happens when you decide, consciously or unconsciously, that you are no longer worth your own touch. I think of my patient Peter, the 76-year-old retired engineer. When he spoke of his life, it was with a flat, hollow resignation. He hadn't just stopped having sex. He had stopped connecting with his own body entirely. He saw it as a vessel that was failing him, something to be ignored. What he didn't know is that the human body requires touch to live. We call it skin hunger. It's a biological need. When we are deprived of touch, from others or from ourselves, our nervous system interprets it as a sign of mortal danger. It reads it as abandonment, and its response is to shut down, to go numb, to conserve resources for a winter that never ends. This act of turning away from your own body, of treating it like an inconvenience, is the ultimate act of physiological surrender. It is you telling your own biology, "I'm done." The real cost. This is where everything converges. This form of isolation, abandonment by the self, is directly linked in major medical studies to faster cognitive decline, higher rates of heart disease, clinical depression, and a shorter lifespan. The cost is everything. It is the slow fade to gray. The act of touching yourself with mindfulness, with care, even non-sexually, is a radical act of self-preservation. It is a powerful declaration to every cell in your body. I am still here. I am still the captain of this ship. And we are not going down without a fight. Your journey back begins tonight. The 10-minute reawakening protocol. You have heard the truths. You now possess the map. But a map is useless if you don't take the first step. I am not going to ask you to master all of this overnight. I am going to ask you to do one simple, non-negotiable thing. I call it the 10-minute reawakening protocol. Tonight, or first thing tomorrow morning, you will give yourself a gift of 10 minutes. That's it. Step 1. Create a sanctuary. Lock the bedroom or bathroom door. This is a medical appointment with yourself. It is sacred time. No phones, no TV, no distractions. Step 2. Set the intention. Your intention is not to achieve an orgasm. That is not the goal. Your sole intention is sensation. Your goal is to feel, to listen. Step 3. Begin with breath. Sit or lie down comfortably. Take 3 deep, slow breaths. With each exhale, release the tension in your jaw, your shoulders, your hands. Step 4. Reintroduce yourself. Begin by touching your body in a non-sexual way. Your arms, your chest, your legs. Then, with that same slow, curious energy, begin to touch yourself sexually. Use lotion or a lubricant. Be gentle. Be slow. If your mind wanders to the old, rushed habits, gently bring it back to the feeling of your touch right now. Explore. Be curious. That's it. That is the entire assignment. 10 minutes. Now, I know what you might be thinking. This feels awkward. I feel silly. Good. Awkwardness is the feeling of a new neurological path being paved. Stay with it. In the first week, you might not feel much change. But by the second week, you might notice a flicker of sensitivity, a warmth. By the end of the first month, you might wake up one morning and notice a familiar presence you haven't felt in years. That is the feeling of your body saying, "Welcome back. I've been waiting for you." This protocol is not about lust. It is about life. It is about sending a signal so powerful it echoes through your entire nervous system, telling it to come back online. Remember this. Your history does not have to be your destiny.